everybody. This is the room where it happened, where this virtual exhibition was created. Change and challenges are inevitable. The overwhelming success of the 2019 exhibit at Aesop Art Museum, sponsored by AARP, immediately led Bernard Macias, AARP Associate State Director for Long Island, to invite the Aesop Arts Council the opportunity to stage this 2020 exhibit. But no one foresaw the changes and challenges that would arise with the pandemic. But the show must go on attitude reigned supreme, and the outcome you are about to see is extraordinary. My responsibility as curator was to weave a cohesive visual story into this exhibition that will provide you, the viewer, with inspiration and awe, with discovery, and with renewed hope and sense of unity for our new beginnings. They really occur on a daily basis. Art is a wonder drug, and seniors are our country's greatest asset. Just as I was weaving together this virtual exhibition in my isolation, nearly 600 artists in their cocoons embraced the challenges of technology and reached out to me. And in our isolation, we became connected. And in so doing, have turned this virtual exhibit into an intimate and personal experience. And as you watch this video, crafted by the superb videographer Waldo Cabrera, you may find that it's way better than you imagined it to be. Let us know what you think about it. Enjoy the show.
This composite photogram montage is a new beginning because being locked down inspired me to build my own darkroom in my home. A chipped tooth and breast cancer greeted my 50th birthday. Photogram breast was done in the darkroom after finding out that I was not positive for the BRCA gene. Something to celebrate. Photogram hand recalls Henry Fox Talbot and the creative impulse to always create again. Photogram crochet Macedonia is also inspired by Talbot and the creative possibilities of the darkroom. July 2020 saw good health and new beginnings. I love lockdown to focus on my art again.
This painting portrays our strength with the extended branch as the focal point. The wear and tear markings on the bark signify courage to find new ways. The branch also symbolizes signs of new growth, while the water's ebb and flow symbolizes the many changes that are ahead. The tranquil background color assures that we will get through this together. This new beginnings painting symbolizes the importance to prevail, branch out, and stay connected as we go forward.
In this forest, the figures are peeking through a mist which seems to be receding. When it does, they may finally be able to see clearly. It is winter, and the trees are bare of leaves, waiting for a new season to begin as life renews, giving us hope in our quest for an end to the pandemic and a fresh new start towards a more socially just and equal society.
Dawn brings the sunrise. It offers us new beginnings of hope and possibilities of the new day.
I wear many hats and am in a constant state of discovery and risk-taking. As the original pioneer of health and safety in printmaking, I developed survival skills by staying in good physical and spiritual shape. For me, COVID is a gift of time and awareness. With no workshop engagements, I have a huge financial loss. However, I am very appreciative of a Pollock Krasner grant, that helps me continue working on a series of etchings called Aesop's Fables.
See Me takes a critical view of racism, politics, and social justice. I happen to have this white shell, but what would happen if my shell was a different color? Wouldn't I still be me? Wouldn't I offer the same intrinsic value in any skin color? See Me allows both myself and the onlooker to see beyond the physicality of a human being. This portrait depicts an indigenous African American with my eyes. We are all the same, wrapped in different skins.
I lived next door to the historic home and farm where the abolitionist John Brown lived and sheltered the slaves in the 1800s. As I passed by the statue every day, something told me to paint it. He did so much good to help the slaves and black population. It is my hope for a new beginning that we will come out of this pandemic with a new sense of equality and fellowship for all people. I bought the art supplies with no idea how to do it, and it seemed to magically come to life on the canvas.
Soon after I started this piece, I came down with COVID. As I lay on the sofa, gazing at my partially completed painting, the figure of a young black woman just lightly sketched in, a wave of racial justice protests swept our nation. When I was well and picked up my brushes again, I was inspired to paint her walking her path with strength and independence. And just as she wouldn't break her stride, I would not let nature defeat me. I would start my life again with renewed vigor and determination.
Along with the horror of the coronavirus and the looting caused by extremists after the George Floyd murder and ensuing protests, came the beginning of a recognition that it's time to deal with our country's shameful history of racial injustice. This conviction, embraced by all ages and ethnicities, promises to change our society. As an artist, I bear witness, and this is what we are witnessing right now.
I believe the purpose of the artist is to keep the creative process alive. As the field of medicine would not exist without its practitioners, the creative process would not exist without the artist. For the artist, the production of the work is therapy. The work only becomes art when it has an effect on another. In this painting, one calls on the mysteries of faith to bring relief in extraordinary situations. One finger is missing because no one prays because we are perfect.
My painting Transformation is an expression of my eternal hopefulness for humanity and the planet. The painting reflects the beauty and bittersweet essence of autumn as nature sets the stage for the new beginning that is spring. I think there is a recognition in the world of the absolute necessity of transforming our way of living so as to preserve the beauty and continuity of our planet and offer this same new beginning for future generations.
My dear friends, my new portfolio is Love, Meditation, and Seeing. The meaning of love is love itself. Meditation lifts us to the realm and the freedom of the spirit. And seeing is the re-synthesis of a meaning for what we see. My dear friends, I wish you the joys of love, the heights of meditation, and the beauty of seeing. And until we meet, stay well and keep art alive.
This artwork was inspired in the beginning by watching rain run over the window, and it reminded me of the healing effects of the water in the therapy pool.
Each day is a new beginning. As I grow older, each and every new day is a special gift, giving me time to make more new memories and more new works of art. Retiring has given me more time for family, friends, adventures, and of course painting. My new painting is of a subject matter I have never painted before, a pond of leaves. They are some of my new beginnings, keeping me forever young.
My work embodies my belief that we will rise out of the chaos, fear, and despair of this trying time, and that our children especially will regain a future of hope, happiness, and achievement.
Hi, my name is Miranda Fix, and I have always loved art. My first choice as a career, but being an artist wasn't considered an option in the 70s. I became an RN, and in 2016 I retired. After 41 full-time years in the profession, I retired because I became very ill, but my illness became my cloud with silver lining, and I call my art my second act.
This work is based on a photograph taken of my father, age 6, on a boat in the year 1918, the year of the Spanish flu. At the top of the photo, my father wrote, in a child's handwriting, "scared in a boat." This work is significant in these times when we are all scared in a boat. We will never return to normal, but we will, if we can see in this our connections to all people, enter a new beginning, like a growing boy.
My name is Alan Richards. My entry is entitled Concentration. It shows two girls on a porch engaged in a game of checkers. Each game of checkers has a clear beginning and a clear end. One person wins and the other loses. Each game then represents a new start or a new beginning, a chance to win.
New beginnings can feel uncomfortable, like standing on a precipice without something to hold on to. Changes can be an opportunity for growth and new experiences, or can be terrifying. The paintings I'm submitting speak to that point in time when things seem filled with uncertainty, along with new possibilities. A little girl steps out, testing boundaries. She's brave, and I often think of her when facing life changes that bring about unintentional new beginnings.
I live in New York City. COVID-19 brought the closure of just about every bit of physical, person-to-person contact. No stores, no meetings or conferences, not even regular doctor and dentist appointments. My new beginning is to create enough new, appealing artwork to manufacture jigsaw puzzles when the factories can fit me in to sell online myself.
I had wanted to make performance a bigger part of my art practice when New York went on lockdown. My secret life involved my partner Dan and I playing with puppets, but we had had no time to devote to a side project. In a strange twist of fate, the confinement gave me that time. I started videotaping PSAs about life under quarantine with a cow puppet. And those quickly became full-scale productions with an entire cast of characters, giving my art a new beginning.
It's a cold man! It's the cold man, everybody! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get outdoors! Get out! Rain! Run out! Run out! Run out! Run out!
The sound of a child laughing on a swing, crying to go higher, carries through the years. Imprinted upon this old tree swing are the vibrations of joy. It is a family tradition, passed on from one to the next, and full of love and hope for the next generation.
New beginnings. In change is opportunity. When driven to massive change, we must recognize the opportunity to reconsider our way of seeing and approaching the world. Having lived through several generational changes, a foundation exists to see an old world in new ways, under new circumstances. As Proust said, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. My art is a medium of communication to bridge these moments, built on history, living in the present, always looking towards the future.
What symbolizes a new beginning more than a baby, be it human or animal? My fine art oil painting, Ripples in Time, shows a duckling testing out the water for its first time. Fear must be put aside. Then, with each ripple, there is a new experience, new things to learn to get through to the next ripple, a new adventure to look forward to, a new beginning into what will come next in life.
After almost 2 years, I have finally completed our journey. I chose the mother elephant and her calf because they are on a journey through the forest of life. She stands by her young one as a protector and teacher, just as my parents nurtured me. My father passed away this April, and one of his last wishes was for me to complete this painting. My new beginning began when I completed this painting. My life has begun to change for the better. I pray new beginnings be bestowed by God on everyone's life.
Life has been on Earth for billions of years and has been sustained by reproduction of all species. This image is a great example showing a recently born gorilla being protected and loved and soon to be taught and educated by its mother. What a boundless new beginning.
When I put paintbrush to the canvas, I'm at a new beginning. As an empty nester and no longer a caretaker, my paintings embody a rebirth. It is ecstasy of this new moment in time. Mother and child was inspired by my new role as a grandma, filled with new perceptions and new beginnings.
As we emerge from this pandemic, we come forth out of our cocoons as butterflies, flying high and free, feeding off the nectar of our great land.
This collage was a new beginning for an old sketch of two models. Light from windows behind the figures blurred my vision of the female's face, so I drew a halo around her head. Later I realized the model's positions echoed paintings of the biblical journey to Bethlehem. After adding more halos and a donkey, I struggled to create an appropriate likeness for the Madonna. When I stepped back, I saw my mother's face.
One person's decisions and actions can affect millions. We now understand we are all connected, all of us. My interactive art explores the concept of connectivity and community using fundamental artist tools: color, line, shape, texture, and touch. My installations are safe, immersive environments where people can explore the concepts of collaborative effort, connecting through art, and building pathways to renewal. I say embrace our new beginnings, starting with ourselves, then with family and friends, and ultimately humanity.
I was in a tiny church in Tuscany and I saw this image as a potential subject for a new painting. I just loved the way the lighting of the flicker of the candles and the hand reaching out to light a candle. When everything happened to us in March and people were suffering so, it just took on an entirely different meaning. So when we light a candle and say a prayer, we are looking for something to transition into a better understanding and a new beginning.
Nightscapes symbolizes the light and darkness and shows that beauty and new beginnings are everywhere, even when you can't see them. With every night there is a rising sun and the chance for a new beginning.
The pandemic has rekindled a new spirit in my life and artwork. It has powerfully refocused what I value most in my life. Ascension is a tribute to the lives lost to the pandemic. Flowers represent emotion and gratitude. They flow up through the field of blue, representing faith, gently floating into the afterlife, reflecting on new reality, our new beginning. I must now find new ways of communicating, a new beginning, which represents hope, faith, and love. My work symbolizes my new beginning as I devote less time to my career and more time to printmaking. I am exploring challenging techniques, including reduction lino cuts and other methods of relief printing, and this parallels the challenging times we are living in. My work expresses interactions between the natural world and human environments, and I hope as we come out of this pandemic, we will establish a healthier relationship between the natural world and our human environment.
New beginnings present an opportunity to shift your mindset. It is easy to dwell in negative thinking, so by focusing on practicing gratitude over anxiety, I work on envisioning a new beginning every day. Warrior is my representation of releasing negativity and living in the present, appreciating that times are tough, but with age comes a wisdom that we will prevail. I wanted this piece to convey movement of thoughts and celebrate new beginnings and the warrior in us all.
Bringing the focus of my subject matter to our immediate contemporary culture comprised a new beginning and expanded my artwork's power, ambition, and ability to connect with the world outside my studio. This change allows me to express the cross currents that are pulsing through. I've collected images that convey meaning, particularly when abstracted and combined together as a basis for the work. My strong color sense helps to give the final images the force with which to make connection.
This work was created as an attempt to enliven a two-dimensional painting as 3 dimensions. The subject for the assemblage is a previously created painting of mine with similar visual elements. This is a new direction for me as I move from the flat surface of the canvas to creating sculpture.
My left leg was amputated a few years ago. I needed a new beginning. I remembered my mother teaching me how to sew when I was young. Why not do something with that knowledge? I joined a quilting organization and learned the craft through them. Quilting brought a new life to me. It helped me through hard times. I have now displayed my work in library galleries across Long Island and get great pleasure in the positive comments that I have received.
I spent my working life as an advertising art director and graphic designer. After retiring, I started painting full-time, doing mostly contemporary still life. I paint fruit, vegetables, close-ups of candy, toys, dolls, and anything else that catches my eye. I have come to realize that each day is a new beginning.
Leaving my country at 50 years of age, I resigned from my 23 years old job in the Supreme Court of Justice was not easy at all, especially when I say goodbye to my family and friends. Everything changed, and now in this country there is a new beginning, signed through art. I express many of the feelings that I carry with me.
This watercolor is of a garden pack of violas. Spring is naturally a time for new beginnings and renewal, but the pandemic and being on pause made me feel stuck, not creatively, but emotionally. In the beginning, I found that I had no energy for big ideas, but I could make small paintings of small things, and in this way begin again.
In my work, I endeavor to offer the viewer, as well as myself, a place of beauty, of refuge, of hope, and of escape in which to wander. New beginnings take many forms: the dawn of a new day and a new era, the escape and hope in a dream of a better world, the freshness and clarity that will hopefully come after the storm of the pandemic passes.
The predominant color in my paintings that I submitted is yellow, which evokes thoughts of morning and optimism of a new beginning. The paintings are bright, vibrant, and the imagery bounces with joy and positive energy. The paintings predict not only new beginnings, but also celebrations of life, love, friendship, and new art to come.
For me, new beginnings is what the post-pandemic world would feel like emotionally and physically. I have always been inspired by the juxtaposition of the grids of New York City, where I live, and nature. My art represents the yearning for calmness in the calamity and destruction that we are living through now.
I am late to painting. I was a newspaper photographer and writer-editor for 42 years. I have painted perhaps 180 works since 2014. Imagination in this exhibit reflects staying at home during this time of virus. The color-filled bars are walls in the house to be overcome, a new beginning.
Society reveres the young and is attracted to the shiny and new. But stop and look around for the treasures in our midst, old and weathered, discarded and forgotten. Do not count me out, for I am still standing and have stories to tell. The textures of my skin, the wisdom and strength of my years, and the colors of my heart are riches meant to be shared, making each day a discovery and a new beginning.
Rather than dwell on the COVID-19 pandemic and my now sequestered life, I decided to create a new series of works inspired by previously completed paintings. The Optimist is the first stepping stone along my path for development utilizing more open patterning and monochromatic color planes. The Optimist is the first painting completed during my isolation. This work represents a new beginning for me.
My figures range from circus clowns to the ghoulish and spooky. Yet what connects them all is a smirk, a grin, and a smile. Their upturned lips seem to embrace an upbeat attitude with which I try to tackle the obstacles of aging in times of a global crisis and the virus.
Because of illness and old age, I put aside my lifelong passion for photography. The challenge of submitting to this exhibition offered a new beginning, and the photograph itself represents a new way of seeing. Where previously I would have aimed for a literal rendering, this image suggests the world is more than a literal reality, that life is colored by emotion and imagination.
The work I created after the quarantine included the coronavirus itself, the round ball with protruding proteins called hemagglutinin. How could such a wacky image create so much fear? Sometimes I imagined the virus as a roly-poly shape just tumbling along. Even in the most idyllic situations, it could be lurking to attach and attack. The coronavirus was our new unseen enemy.
At
the outset of the pandemic, I was overwhelmed and anxiety-ridden. I reached out to a fellow artist and started painting together on FaceTime. Through this process, I started working again and created work that was emotionally infused with the virus. After I got through that, I created this work. It is new for me in many ways. There are clusters of colors, new combinations, and a depth that evolved from the immobilization I was experiencing. This is a positive outcome of a very stressful time.
I'm a mixed media installation artist, painter, and jewelry designer. I usually work in a series which allows me to flesh out my subject matter, but now I have found that abandoning myself to my varied interests and working more abstractly allows me to experiment more with my materials. This is a new direction for me as I'm trying to reimagine a new identity for myself and a new way of working in a post-COVID-19 world.
Do you know what a chortle is? When you chuckle and snort at the same time. Lewis Carroll did many of these in his Jabberwocky poem, and I'm trying to do visually in my creature paintings. Every painting is a new beginning, and every beginning is new, and my new beginning creatures are about joy and hope for what's to come next.
The collage Woman with a Fork expresses my feeling of being consumed by the pandemic. It demonstrates the process of my fight to exist.
Earth to earth, this is the cycle of life. Each fall, trees shed their leaves and remain bare through the stillness of winter, and then in the spring, rebirth, or new beginnings, hope. Trees represent many symbolic aspects such as renewal, beauty, strength, and stability, to name a few. A widespread symbol of the tree is the tree of life, rooted in earth with its branches and leaves, giving shade and home to many creatures. Each year the cycle begins again, perhaps fuller and more extravagant than the year before.
New Beginnings. This series of paintings was created during the pandemic while living in Brooklyn, New York. Everything changed due to the pandemic. I began working from home, ordering masks, hand sanitizer, and food in bulk. I was in lockdown mode. Every trip outside my apartment door was suspect for virus attack. I painted and released my fears onto canvas. I will emerge from this a changed person, a more politically aware, socially and culturally more attuned. I'm ready to embrace this new role of a more responsible person, a directional pivot.
I just retired and I'm starting a new beginning with my art, which has been on hold for more years than I want to think about. Too burnt out and lack of time created the hiatus. Long ago, nature, trees and plants especially, was my muse with a few wanderings into still life in landscapes, all somewhat realistically or abstracted. A design with nature in mind is my first new piece of pure design, beginning with lines and shapes.
My life has been a series of new beginnings. Architect, restaurant owner, antiques dealer, writer, illustrator. 15 years ago, I began to do brush painting and had my first show. This painting is one of a series on a pandemic that seems to epitomize new beginnings. How we process this time of heartache, isolation, will determine the future we have together.
My name is Rita Rovery. I'm a self-taught artist. The work is inspired by my love of the ocean. I'm lifted by the colors, the ebb and flow of the tide, and the sand between my toes. Splash streams as the tide rushes over you and washes all the troubles away. Hope is renewed to rejoice in a new beginning of a new day.
I started these driftwood pieces a few summers ago to break away from what I usually do, landscape painting. I have a basic idea when I start, but I'm never sure what the result will be. It's like working on a jigsaw puzzle with only half a picture as a guide. I like that feeling of relying more on instinct and spontaneity rather than a familiar formula. The results are always surprising and new.
In these unique times, my thoughts and feelings were expressed in my new poem, The Shelter of Unity. Eyes wide open, the world awakens to something bigger than a divided plain. A turn in the road begins, where survival is a sign of attention to events not created by man, and stillness is needed to heal in the shelter of unity.
After a 40-year career as a research scientist, which required constant attention to detail, I discovered plein air painting. I was liberated. The plein air artist needs only to suggest details by good use of techniques like soft or hard edges and the creative use of color and value. The imagination of the reviewer does the rest. This is my new beginning.
New beginnings all have roots. Gauthier and O'Brien, together since 1992, offer initial experiments in a first-time collaborative integration of their different visual media. Gauthier observes fluid edges in natural environments, photographs quiet life forms there. O'Brien's weather-tolerant ceramic forms support the in-glaze photographs, becoming octagonal installations inserted back into those landscape edges.
These images represent new beginnings as we adjust to the various changes of life in the time of COVID-19. Dancing together is now impossible without risks. I miss dancing. Also, there is a civic obligation to wear a mask in public to protect myself as well as others from the virus. I'm still getting used to seeing myself with a mask.
Unable to paint from live models due to the pandemic, I went through my figure studies, throwing some out and looking for inspiration. I began to cut the figures out and reassembled them on canvas, painting in backgrounds and reworking the figures to create unity. Amazing things began to happen. A whole new series, a whole new beginning opened up for me.
The Party That Wasn't is a direct response to the beginning of a horrible new reality, COVID-19. I positioned the figures in a way that shows their disconnection. Reality and predictability had suddenly become fragmented. I began with a network of jagged lines beginning at the corners working toward the center. Then I added the figures, rendered in the same type of jagged lines. It's all straight lines except for the curved lines representing the eyes peering over the mask.
Limited for the most part by the pandemic to watching events unfold on television, I'm intrigued by our increasingly virtual relationship with the world and how that will affect the future. Although I'm returning to an earlier narrative impulse in my work, the overt political subject matter represents something new and is my way of participating in the protests and raising my voice against the forces of racism and fascism that threaten our country.
Life has always required new beginnings, as when we put some of our lives on hold as we start a family. When our quarantine started, the new beginning was a series of works to help me cope with the desperation of the astounding and unreal ways in which the world had turned upside down.
It is said that in every generation there are 36 righteous Jews living anonymously in the world. According to Jewish folklore, these hidden saints are called Lamed Vadniks. Lamed Vav means 36, Lamed 3, Vav 6. And if the number goes below 36, then tragedy strikes the Jewish people and the world. We are in such a situation now, and I hope that we can find our way to the light and new beginnings for the world.
My painting First Sun is relevant to new beginnings. I wanted to capture the feeling and emotion when the sun first comes over the horizon in the early morning. The orange colors cradling the yellow sun as it breaks through to start a new day.
This painting represents in abstract symbols the sequence of creation: God, the universe, the sun, our earth and moon, all in the form of an inverted ray of creation.
African Heart, my narrative and protection symbolize new beginnings. While I create, I gift myself to myself, and I'm no longer on the back burner. I'm discovering me without any apology or comparison. Creating is soul food, it's connection to now, it's nourishment. I finally feel centered in my skin, at peace.
This painting of To Touch represents new beginnings to me. During these hard times, many of us can't see or touch the ones we love. We are forced to see them from a distance. It affects everyone. Hopefully it'll be over by the next sunrise.
I created this painting during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic shutdown. As a single empty nester, I realized how important relationships are for our well-being. During this time, I reunited with an old flame from 15 years ago through technology. The trajectories of our careers led us in different directions when we were younger. But now, finding ourselves on the same page, we're excited about this new beginning. And maybe someday we'll be the couple in this painting.
Delving deep within the image, I encourage figures to reveal themselves. Forms emerge from the earth deeply rooted in past struggles. These universal struggles can be personal, social, or political, reflecting the challenges we face globally. We must stand together to find place and belonging when we are all compromised by seen and unseen forces. One race equally vulnerable in this new and current environment. Learn to cope, embrace a new perspective, finding our place in an unfamiliar frontier.
This landscape series symbolizes a new beginning in my career as a painter by including the wildlife I encounter while hiking in Harriman State Park as the focal point of the subject matter within the context of the natural outdoor composition.
For the last 5 years, I've been drawing my own Christmas cards using various churches in Hudson, New York, and the beautiful birds I see around my rural home. Christmas for me has been a time of celebration of a new beginning, the birth of Christ, and the hope that goes with it. I chose the churches in Hudson because I've been an art teacher in Hudson's school district for 21 years. New beginnings is certainly the children that I've taught and the creativity that I work to nurture in them. My greatest honor was in 2018 when a graduating class chose me as the Teacher of the Year.
My Untitled Painting is part of my ongoing exploration and interpretation of the implicit geometries of place. As a relatively new beginning for me, I found myself returning to painting on canvas after painting exclusively on paper for years for the first time in a while. The scale of my work is of the utmost importance as I'm working to create a private experience for the viewer by inviting a close-up gaze.
I make art that explores the poetic nature of daily life. I combine the design elements of painting with emotional content. I use words that are a combination of everyday speech and idioms. I want my work to go out in the world and to make simple paintings that remind people of times that they were most alive.
Cascade Connection depicts an autumn scene. Autumn brings a time of rebirth, a time to look within, and a time to reflect. In essence, we are letting go of what was and witnessing a new start. There is hope in our heart and the possibility of what could be. During troubling times, it is important to remember the autumn season, all its beauty, and how the changing leaves represent a new beginning.
Opposition in challenging times, dealing with a myriad of emotions, including family, work, and friends, facing major changes, new ways of working, interacting, reacquainting with all. Fire, burn it down, heat it up, raging emotion, ripping through, making way for new growth. Ice, deep freeze, slow thaw, halted, locked down, caught in time. Earth is healing, regenerating, we reconnect with our planet. All that was important has changed as we reinvent ourselves.
How to listen. As technology continues to change, it opens up to us new ways for us to communicate. Especially now during COVID-19 quarantine, we can talk and see each other virtually, connect across the globe, share resources, poems, jokes, support, and love in ways we would never have thought possible as young people. We can learn to listen today to the young, to the angry and the aggrieved. We can open our hearts and grow and expand every day.
This work represents new beginnings through materials and intent. It is created from shredded travel and leisure publications filled with advertisements and puff pieces written about aspirational destinations. The pandemic inspired me to think about travel from a perspective other than my own. For me, travel now connotes being reunited with family stuck in another part of the world or country, U.S. citizens kept out of their own country, and many foreigners banned. This work has been a journey of perceiving travel through the eyes of others who are struggling during this time. It is a new beginning.
With the creation of the Fire Goddess came the revelation that I didn't need a press to make a print. That became another new beginning for me.
Old German masters in printmaking inspire my work using old techniques like aquatint, dry point, and more. My work is a visual story of renewal, circle of life. Like my work Renewal, which shows a skull but also sprouting leaves. There's a beginning and an end, which results into another beginning, a new beginning.
Our experiences are constantly turning. They are endings and new beginnings. My painting evokes in me a sense of a new beginning, which is inherent in these transitions. New beginnings arise by the shifting from lines to form, from dark to light, and from movement to stillness.
New beginnings during the pandemic, learning a new medium, watching bleak days pass by, seeing the new blooms starting to grow in the park.
In 1985, while a professor of graduate art therapy at the College of New Rochelle, I began working on Timeline, My work on this piece paralleled my tenure at CNR, where I would work intermittently on the sculpture for years. When CNR announced its closure in August 2019, I began to finish this piece before I lost the necessary tools. But the closure of New Rochelle brought with it new beginnings, as I joined the graduate art therapy faculty at the College of Mount St. Vincent, where they built a new sculpting studio for me to continue my work.
Our lives have been put on hold. Although I stopped going to my studio, I took up on painting at home, leaving behind my training and transitioning from representational narratives to focusing exclusively on motion, light, and color. Are these works new beginnings? Not sure, since I never settled on any one style. But maybe they are symbolic of the larger change that we all must undertake to reassess priorities and move forward in a more humane way.
My new series represent new beginnings relating to adaptation to this stage of life and a changing world.
This past spring, as I walked through a local nature preserve, I felt the earth showing me signs of revival and renewal, leaving me a feeling of hope and joy. Back to my studio, I began a painting I call River of Tears in response to that calming effect that walk gave me. I believe during these very unsettling and frightening days, we are all searching for signs of optimism and hope for our future.
The virus has taught me life can be changed in an instant. I grieve not only for myself but for my daughters. Everything is out of my control. The new work reflects the chaos of these times. Pat Steer said, "Just don't control, let it happen." During this isolation, I found peace on my daily walks. Flowers have always been instrumental in putting a smile on my face. These walks led to the creation of my new series.
In these times of social distancing, uncertainty, and isolation, our natural world has become a refuge. I find comfort in the rhythms and the cycles of the plants and animals, and in the vistas that are both constant and changing. In a world of human suffering, our sweet earth continues to live and renew itself. It is to this concept that I have tried to pay homage in my painting.
My son came home for a few months during the pandemic. He helped me plant my garden around Mother's Day with some sunflower seeds. He placed them in pots and we watched them grow. Unfortunately, he needed to leave before they bloomed. Sitting in my yard, I imagined a magic garden planted by young children. Planting and growing are what I think of as a new beginnings. I started to draw my own secret magic garden of new beginnings.
The astounding design, colors, and fragrance of flowers have a sole purpose in the universe. They have evolved perfectly to entice specific partners that enable pollination. Those seeds that come after these ephemeral flowers have evolved over time specifically for the renewal and rebirth of the species. Each flower, whether they last a day or a season, offers us as human beings joy. But the more profound accomplishment they provide in their existence is the very survival of the species.
With all challenges we face today during COVID, a plant blooming in vibrant colors demonstrates new beginning and shows that nature keeps going. This gives me the hope life will go back to normal. Like plants experiencing new beginnings in spring and nature overcomes disasters and keeps going, we humans will overcome COVID and experience new beginnings and a bright future.
Since very early in my artistic life, I have been concerned with the concept of light. Light emanates from the sun, upon which all living things depend to survive. In the book of Genesis, God creates light to mark the beginning of the world and of all living things. In my oil painting, Rose of Sharon, I celebrate how I captured this beautiful and wild plant budding, growing, and flowering. This is my first still life painting of a live flower, which is a new beginning for my artistic life.
Timing is everything. I created red edge hydrangea during the pandemic this summer when I was not going anywhere. Surgery did not allow me to drive, so observing everything around me became the subject of my artwork. The flowers that surround my co-op became the subjects in a new way, a new story. Not just perfect flowers, but the beauty with the imperfections that time and life gave them.
Having so much extra time to paint was a blessing, which is getting me through this crisis. I was a textile designer at one time. With the limitations imposed in the COVID environment, I tapped into my experience to bring fabric and natural forms, such as plants, flowers, or still life subjects, into something altogether new. With the comfort of the familiar, I was emboldened and indeed inspired to combine colors into new themes. I look forward to being inspired by my colleagues.
The piece that I'm exhibiting, Winging It, represents a new beginning for our world in view of the current pandemic times. The abstract figures depicted in the piece indicate free expression taking flight in the vibrance of the colors and shapes. It speaks to mankind emerging into freedom in a more stable world, throwing off the viral pandemic that recently imprisoned mankind and killed so many. Humanity will rise out of the remains and break through to life and hope.
To begin anew, one must learn to see things in another way. Surroundings that have been seen many times in the same way must now be seen in a new way in order to move forward with inner joy.
In this unsettling time of the pandemic, my painting, Looking Back, can be interpreted in several ways. Having been a practicing artist and art professor for approximately half my life, I'm looking back upon my career as I'm holding the forked branch in my hand in the painting, which is symbolic of being at a crossroads. And as I ponder the future of what is to come in my later middle age, seen in that positive light, it would be symbolic of new beginnings.
In my fourth Self-Portrait a Day series, I use the vocabulary of my own features as they change with age to explore the broader experience of being human. Each series begins anew in January, but this year in March, everything changed, and I had to begin again to document this extraordinary time. Symbols for this year include masks, shadows, and boxes, and as in this piece, flying, floating, or falling objects.
My process of creating this art transforms my paintings into archival digital prints. Changing the composition to become symmetrical creates patterns. I also change my rectangular canvas to become an oval. My paintings have experienced new beginnings, and most importantly, the new shape of the oval is symbolic of eggs, fertility, birth, and new beginnings. With this work, I am hoping for good health and kindness for all.
I recently revisited a location photo taken many years ago. Soon to be 92 years old, I find that every day is a new beginning. All this has revitalized me because of my special relationship with collaborative artist and author Holly Gordon, who has curated this exhibition. A soon-to-be available book of our 6-year journey of creative, historic, and personal discovery, parallel perspectives. The brush lens collaboration is my inspiration. Reading it may inspire you upon a new beginning too.